Hi, I'm Marlene. My parents handed my sister our $4 million family legacy, without warning, without regret, and told me I'd find my own path. They didn't just cut me out, they erased me. But I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I built a $75 million rival business across the street. Want to know how I went from being invisible to unforgettable? The lights above the Dorn Trattoria dining room glowed a little too warm, like they were trying to soften what was about to happen. I sat at the far end of the oak table, my grandfather's table, the same one he carved initials into when I was 5. Back then, they said I'd inherit more than just his dimples. I guess stories change. Everyone was dressed like it was a wedding, not a funeral, except no one died. Unless you count the part of me that still thought I belonged to this family. Carla, in her white chef's coat pressed to perfection, twirled her wine glass and laughed as if this was just another team dinner. I knew better. Something was coming. I could feel it in the way Dad avoided eye contact and the way Mom kept smoothing her napkin even though it wasn't wrinkled. "We've got a little announcement," my father finally said. He smiled like it cost him. "Your mother and I have decided that the time has come." "Time for what?" He didn't look at me. "Carla will be taking over the Dorn brand completely," Mom chimed in. "Full ownership. It's only right. She's shown such vision, such passion." Passion. That's what they called Instagram reels and magazine interviews now. Not the years I spent running payroll, restructuring debt, keeping the place alive when the world shut down. Passion was louder, apparently. I waited. Maybe they'd acknowledge me. Maybe they'd offer a role, even ceremonial. A nod, anything, nothing. "I know this might come as a surprise," Dad added, finally turning to me. "But you'll always be a part of this, Marlene. Just not formally." "Just not formally?" I swallowed the taste in my throat. "That's fine," I said. My voice didn't crack. I didn't blink. Carla turned, smiling like she'd just been crowned. "We'll find something for you, something where you don't have to worry so much. You've always been more behind the scenes, haven't you?" I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Then Mom reached into her bag and pulled it out. The necklace. Silver. Worn smooth from generations. My grandmother had once whispered it would be mine. "She deserves it," Mom said, unclasping it and walking to Carla. It happened in slow motion. The clasp, the kiss on the cheek, the applause. My face stayed still, but something inside me pulled apart. Quiet and irreversible. I excused myself. In the restroom, I gripped the edge of the sink. My reflection looked composed, but the silence in my chest was unbearable. 16 years ago, they accused me of stealing Carla's recipe notebook. I hadn't touched it, but she cried, and they believed her. That was the first time they chose her over me. I was 13. Now they weren't choosing, they were erasing. When I returned, the dessert had been served. I didn't sit. I didn't wait for coffee or for one last chance at decency. "Thank you," I said, loud enough for them all to hear. "You've made this easy." Then I walked out. No slamming, no theatrics. Just the weight of everything I never got to keep. I didn't sleep that night. The silence in my apartment felt thicker than the one in the dining room. I couldn't stop replaying the moment Mom unclasped that necklace. The way her hands didn't hesitate. The way Carla tilted her chin like she'd already tried it on days ago. It wasn't grief that kept me awake. It was the itch. That itch you get when your gut knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. By 2:12 a.m., I was on my knees in front of my storage drawer. It took me a minute to find the old password logbook from when I helped digitize Dorn's security systems. I knew there was a backup drive somewhere, a record of vault access logs. I built that backup when no one trusted cloud storage. I connected the drive, scrolled. There it was, 3 months ago. Entry, Elaine Ridgway. Access duration, 7 minutes. Item withdrawn. Heirloom, sterling silver chain. 3 months before the surprise announcement. My jaw locked. My stomach didn't sink. It hardened. They'd planned it. Every toast, every word, every thank you for your service grin. The betrayal wasn't spontaneous. It was scripted. I shut the laptop. My fingers didn't shake. I turned to the blinking light on my desk, the one I ignored when I left the restaurant. Email. Subject line. Final transition confirmation, Marlene Ridgway. I opened it. No greeting, no warmth. Just legal jargon. 3-month severance. COBRA instructions. A note about my employee access being revoked. Effective immediately. It wasn't even signed by my father. Some HR manager named Nancy closed with, "Wishing you the best in your next chapter." I laughed. Out loud. They didn't even have the decency to tell me to my face. They buried my legacy in a template form letter. "Next chapter," she said. Like I was turning a page. This wasn't a page. It was an erasure. 16 years ago, I was blamed for misplacing Carla's event schedule the day of her scholarship interview. It had been my mother's mistake, but I stayed quiet while Carla cried. I told myself it was just a misunderstanding. I told myself we'd even out one day. We didn't. I stared at the blueprints I had kept tucked behind old financial reports. Salvia Cafe. My concept. My brand. I had drawn it up when I thought I'd pitch it to my family. A way to modernize Dorn without losing our story. Now it would become something else. Not an offer, a declaration. They thought I was done. But I wasn't done proving I'd never needed their permission. I arrived before the sun did. The Dorn office still smelled like pine-scented cleaner and overboiled chicken stock, like no matter how much they dressed it up, it couldn't hide its decay. I'd planned to grab a few last reports, maybe print a vendor contract or two, but when I sat at the login screen and typed my password, the system didn't blink. It just rejected me. Access denied. I tried again, slower this time. Same result. I checked the screen. My name wasn't even listed in the system anymore. No records found. There was no farewell email. No, thanks for your service. Just a digital void where my profile used to be. I was gone. Technically, officially, coldly gone. I stood there for a moment, hands resting flat on the keyboard like the keys might suddenly change their mind. They didn't. I walked out. Back home, I didn't turn on any lights. I unlocked the drawer at the base of my coffee table and pulled out a thick folder, still marked in black Sharpie, Salvia. Inside were all the plans I once hoped to pitch to my parents. Streamlined service models, financial flow charts, custom inventory sheets, the kind of obsessive preparation you only make for people who will never take you seriously. 16 months ago, during lockdown, I worked a 16-hour day making sure the Dorn team got paid on time. We were 3 days from defaulting. Carla had been shooting a live cooking class in a studio downtown. No one mentioned me in the press release. They never would. I cleared the table and began again, this time for myself. Late that afternoon, Naomi burst through the door, breathless. She tossed her phone onto the table. "Gourmet Bean just pulled out." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Our main supplier. They canceled. Said they signed an exclusive with someone else this morning." She hesitated. "Someone from Dorn. They doubled the price to cut us off." Of course they did. I didn't throw the folder. I didn't curse. I picked up a pen and started outlining a contingency list. Naomi was pacing. "They're coming for you. This is personal." "No," I said. "It's not personal, it's strategic." She looked at me. I didn't flinch. "They're not trying to hurt me, Naomi. They're trying to erase me. There's a difference." I reached for the red marker and wrote in bold at the top of a fresh page, "Alternate supplier strategy." Then I whispered into the stillness, more to myself than to her. They came at me like I'd break. They forgot I rebuild. The sound of hammering echoed through the half-painted walls of Salvia, mixing with the scent of fresh tile glue and rising anxiety. I was checking invoices when Naomi walked in, lips pressed into a straight line and eyes darker than usual. She didn't say hello, just dropped a printed message on the counter between us. I read it once. "That cafe across the street? It's a child's hobby. She'll burn out in 6 months." The quote was attributed to a vendor I'd worked with for 5 years. A vendor who now refused to return my calls. "She said this?" I asked, already knowing. Naomi nodded. "He sent me the email thread. Said he thought you deserved to know." The paper shook slightly in my hand, not from nerves. My fingers were simply done pretending to feel nothing. "She really thinks I'll fold." Naomi leaned on the counter. "She's betting on it." I didn't reply. I just folded the paper into thirds and slid it into the drawer beneath the cash register. I didn't need to see it again. That night, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer when I saw her name. "Hi, sweetheart," my mother's voice cooed. "I know this might be awkward." She didn't waste time. "Carla's exhausted. This has all been a lot for her. The pressure, the attention, and your father, well, you know how he is. I listened. We were thinking, she continued, her tone soft like wrapping paper. Maybe you could help. Not with anything big, just behind the scenes. You've always been so good with that. Steady, quiet. I closed my eyes, leaned my head against the fridge. You always kept the family grounded, Marlene. We need that again. There it was, the illusion of inclusion, just like before. I'll think about it, I said flatly. She sighed, relieved. I knew you'd understand. The call ended. I didn't cry. Naomi arrived an hour later, hair still damp from her shower, phone in hand. I traced the metadata, she said, sitting beside me. The smear campaign? Carla initiated it. She coordinated with 2 vendors. There's even a group chat titled, Contain the Cafe. My lips parted, but no sound came. Naomi met my eyes. Even your mom is in it. It was like being told the sun had lied to you. I turned to the wall where the Salvia launch calendar was pinned. Below it, I grabbed a red marker and circled one date, Dorn's anniversary party. Soft launch, I said. Same night. Naomi's brow lifted. You sure? I nodded. They want war? We give them war. She exhaled. The loud kind? No, I said, gaze steady. Louder in silence. Naomi didn't knock. She never did when it was bad. I heard her keys hit the counter before I even looked up from my laptop. I'd been rereading my own notes for hours, hoping the next page would tell me how to breathe again. I need you to see this, she said. I followed her into the kitchen. The scent of burnt toast still lingered, stubborn from the morning shift. She held her phone out, screen tilted toward me, no hesitation. A screenshot, group chat, Carla's name, Elaine's words. Use the family angle. She's always softened by guilt. Keep her close, then redirect. Naomi said nothing else. She didn't need to. I stared at my mother's name, those clean little sentences with knives inside them. They hadn't asked me back. They had baited me. They don't want you, Naomi finally said, her voice low. They want control. That's all they've ever wanted. I nodded once, and just like that, whatever ember of doubt I had left finally died out. The next day, they sent someone new, a man in a Navy windbreaker, clipboard in hand, badge that read, Denver Public Health. Routine inspection, he said. No such thing, I muttered. He walked through Salvia's spotless kitchen like he expected to find rats in the soup. I kept my smile frozen. I answered his questions. I showed him every label, every chart, every signed delivery. Naomi stood by my side the whole time. He left without writing anything down, but the message had been delivered loud and clear. We were being watched. Back in the hallway, I sat on the storage crate we used as a makeshift bench. Naomi leaned against the wall across from me. You know that wasn't random, she said. I nodded. She looked at me like she wanted to say more, but didn't. I stared at the glowing red of our exterior sign through the back door window. Salvia, healing. Healing, I realized, wasn't about letting go of pain. It was about refusing to drink from the same cup twice. I stood, walked to my office, and pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside was a sealed envelope I'd been ignoring for days. It wasn't from them. It was from a food blogger. Big reach, big following. She wanted to run a profile. The headline she pitched was still printed across the top. The sister they silenced, now building a culinary empire. I picked up the phone, pressed dial. Let's do it. The photo was grainy, but the knife rack in the corner gave it away. It was ours. Darnell slid his phone across my desk without a word. I looked down at the screen, an anonymous post on a local culinary forum. A caption that read, Salvia's back-of-house hygiene might explain their sudden rise. Below it, a blurry shot taken from behind our prep table. I didn't need to ask where it came from. That image had only existed in one place, our private Slack channel, shared between trusted team leads. I could feel the blood drain from my face, not fear, fury. They're not just watching, I said. They're inside. Darnell leaned back. That post went up 20 minutes ago. It already has comments. I pushed the phone back toward him and stood. Let's meet with Naomi. By the time we reached the break room, my thoughts were already rearranging themselves into action plans. We weren't just under attack. We were under siege. Later that evening, after the last espresso cup had been scrubbed clean, a junior sous chef cornered me by the walk-in fridge. "Hey, I'm putting in my notice," she said, eyes darting. "Something came up." "What came up?" I asked. She hesitated, then pulled out a folded letter from her pocket and handed it over. I didn't even open it. I didn't need to. Darnell walked in just in time to see her backing away. "She was reporting to Carla," he said flatly. "Had been for weeks?" I nodded once. "Let her go." I didn't fire her. I didn't raise my voice. I just let the silence say what it needed to. That night, I gathered everyone who remained. Naomi sat cross-legged on a folding chair. Darnell stood by the window, arms crossed. Everyone else looked like they were waiting for me to lose it. I didn't. "From this moment forward," I said, "no internal messages without encryption. Vendor lists are offline only. No personal phones allowed past line 2. And anyone who leaks anything, intentionally or not, is out. No second chances." Naomi raised a brow. "Is that your version of war?" I shook my head. "This isn't war. This is containment." She smiled faintly. "Smart, subtle, very you." I looked up at the wall calendar. Salvia's first public preview was circled in red. 3 weeks out, coincidentally or not. The same night as Dorn's 25th anniversary. I picked up a black marker and wrote beneath it, "No more whispers, just proof." Then I shut off the lights. The rooftop was colder than usual. I liked it that way. It helped me think. I didn't hear the door open, but I felt it. The subtle shift in the air, the weight of someone who knew how to walk quietly. I didn't turn until I heard his voice. "I owe you an apology." Darnell. I hadn't seen him since the night he quit. Just after one too many passive-aggressive comments from Carla's side had made it impossible for him to stay. Or so he claimed. "I'm not here for drama," he added. "I'm here because I made a mistake." I didn't move. Let him talk. "She didn't want me," he said. "She wanted your systems, your supplier flow, your training model. She asked how you structured your inventory software." I nodded slowly. "And you told her?" He exhaled. "Some of it. Enough to realize she had no plan of keeping me." Silence stretched between us like a drawn wire. Finally I said, "You're here now. So what?" "I want to fix what I can," he said. "If you'll let me." I turned to him. "Fix it by doing better, not by asking for clean slates." He nodded once. "You got it." The next morning, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address, but I knew the letterhead, Dorn Trattoria. The envelope was thick, heavier than it needed to be. Inside, a formal proposal from my father. They called it the Family Synergy Proposal. 4 pages of corporate language, promises of alignment, brand unification, shared vision, then the line that made my skin crawl. "We believe in bringing Salvia back into the Dorn legacy where it began. Back into. Like I was a rogue branch, like I belonged to them in the first place." Naomi read it over my shoulder and snorted. "This isn't a partnership, it's a takeover." "They don't see me as a founder," I muttered. "They see me as a loose thread. So what do you want to do?" I looked at her. Solidify the brand. Double down on independence, legally, operationally, emotionally. I gathered the leadership team that afternoon. We reviewed every supplier agreement, every client contract, every potential liability. I had one rule: no gaps, no exposure, nothing they could exploit. "We don't bury them," I said. "We rise until their shadow can't reach us." At the end of the day, I slid the proposal across the table to my lawyer. "Draft a response," I told him. He asked, "What tone?" I looked him straight in the eye. Valued, untouchable, and absolutely not interested. The envelope was too thick. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my desk like a dare, weighing more than paper should. When I finally slit the top, I didn't even bother to read the opening lines. The words were always the same: shared vision, mutual growth, unified future. But the clause buried on page 3? That was the real message. If I signed, Salvia would be renamed Dorn Modern. I didn't blink. I circled the clause in red and slid it toward Naomi without a word. She glanced at it once and muttered, "This isn't a partnership, it's assimilation." "They want my name, my systems, my team," I said quietly. "But they don't want me." They never did. I folded the document in half and tucked it into the trash. Not an hour later, HR buzzed the intercom. "We've got a walk-in applicant. No resume, but she's persistent." I stepped into the hallway just as Naomi came running down the stairs, eyes wide. "Don't approve her, not yet," she hissed, holding up her phone. "I think it's Carla." I blinked. "What?" "Name on the form is Claire Dunn. But look, handwriting sample from your mom's birthday card last year. Same loops, same weirdie. And the photo she uploaded to her staff badge. Cropped, but it's her." She wasn't coming through the front door anymore. She was sliding under it. I didn't stop her. We approved the hire. For the next 4 days, Claire, worked the espresso bar. She showed up early, took notes, stayed quiet. She didn't look me in the eye. I didn't look away. On day 5, I rewrote the employee handbook. Clause 14.3. Unauthorized surveillance, distribution of confidential materials, or covert data collection will result in immediate termination and legal review. Naomi stood behind me as I typed. "Is this how you want to handle her?" I nodded. "Let her stay. Let her learn what it feels like to live in what she tried to ruin." Naomi leaned closer. "You're playing chess." "No," I said. "I'm playing memory. She forgot what I'm capable of." That evening, as I locked up, I found a sticky note taped to my monitor. Square, yellow, familiar. Nice place. Shame it won't last. I smiled, cold, focused. "She just made her last move," I whispered. "Now it's mine." Naomi placed the folder in front of me with the kind of quiet that made everything inside louder. 2 handwriting samples. The first, Claire Dunn's job application. The second, a birthday card Carla had given to our mother last year. Same looping E's, same dramatic slant on the K's. "It's her," Naomi said. I didn't react, didn't even blink. "I know," I replied. It was never about proving she was here. It was about showing her that I no longer cared. Later that morning, we held our usual staff meeting in the conference room. I stood at the front, outlining prep schedules and delivery audits, while Carla, sat 2 seats from the end, eyes fixed on her notes. She didn't speak. I didn't acknowledge her, not once. The silence between us had shifted. It was no longer a wall, it was a mirror. And she didn't dare look up. Naomi handed me the update on our next location, our 7th. I tucked it into my folder without pause, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. Because now, it was. After the meeting, I walked through the cafe alone. Each step echoed with a calm I hadn't known I was capable of. No rage, no revenge fantasies, just a clean, undeniable peace. That night, back in my apartment, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of chamomile and the city humming quietly beyond my window. My laptop screen glowed with franchise terms, logos in motion, color palettes being finalized. Across the street, the windows at Dorn were dark, permanently. The last of their locations had quietly shut down 6 weeks ago. There had been no announcement, no ceremony. I opened the old family group chat. Nothing new. 9 months of silence, no texts, no photos, no "how are you?" Just a space where people used to pretend we were something worth pretending for. Carla still clocked in every morning at Salvia. She still wore her name tag, still pulled espresso like she meant it, but she had yet to say the words. And I had stopped waiting to hear them. Forgiveness is a strange thing. People assume it comes after an apology. They forget you can also find it in the absence of one, when the need for it disappears altogether. I looked at the folder again. Salvia. My name, my brand, my story, untouched, unbent, unbroken. I didn't win with noise. I didn't need the spotlight. I won with everything they said I lacked. Patience, silence, and my name. Some victories don't echo. They whisper. If you've stayed with me through this story, maybe you felt it too. That moment when you realize your worth isn't something handed down. It's something you build, one silent, determined decision at a time. I didn't need the spotlight. I needed my voice. And sometimes that voice speaks loudest in the way we choose not to scream. Family doesn't always mean fairness, and closure doesn't always come wrapped in an apology. Sometimes it comes when you stop needing one. So now I ask you, have you ever had to walk away from something that once defined you? Have you ever built something louder than the silence you were left in? Let's talk about it. Drop a 1 in the comments if this story hit home. Or tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too. And if this video moved you even just a little, do me one favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. The next story might just be yours.